My name is Tom Winch and this is my coaching presentation for North Herts College. For the first part of the assignment we had to explain some roles of the coaches. So the coaches' roles that I chose were the educator, innovator, role model and a friend. I'll go into greater detail on them now. Roles of a coach, roles of the sports coach. An innovator coach is a person who develops new methods and ideas of training which can affect the team. A very good example of this coach would be Arsene Wenger. For his time at Arsenal, he developed the coaching he was more of an innovator because due to him having the only managing win Invincible season. He done this through his use of changing the world of football by implementing different ways of training, named the professor of his players. So he used more fitness instead of actual technique, which made the best out of the players. The next is the role model. The role model coach is led by example. They gain respect from everyone else. So normally the role model coach would have played before they became a coach, hence why they already had the respect. A good example of this would be Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones is now the rugby union coach, and he used to obviously play rugby professional. He's classed as a role model because he's already won the cups that they are now competing for, so he's got respect for all of his players. The next would be a friend. A friend coach is someone who cares about the feelings and the emotions of his players. They would get to know their client on a personal basis. Normally having a friend as their coach could allow better rotation on the pitch. This could be through a player backing the coach completely. On another note, a good example of this coach would be Andy Murray's coach, Ivan Lindau for tennis. Educator coach is someone who ensures the player are being coached throughout the lesson and can go through tactics thoroughly. An example would be Sir David Brailsford. He educated the coach cyclist to new technology and ultimately won 14 gold medals with it. The next is responsibility of a sports coach. The four I've chosen for that are game prep, tactics, players' health and organisation. Game preparation is a big responsibility for coaches. They need to prepare their players for the match ahead of the game. And they have to make sure the players are warmed up and go through tactics once more to ensure that the players understand what they're doing. Some coaches can rely on captains as a way of doing this. This was shown through Sir Alex Ferguson's time at Man United, when he mostly allowed the higher figures of like Roy Keane and Rio Ferdinand to take charge in the changing rooms. Next is being organised, which is probably one of the main responsibilities of a coach. If a coach isn't organised, then his training sessions are going to fall apart, he's going to lose trust in his players, he's going to run late, he's most likely going to be sacked. Every coach is pretty much organised at the professional level. The one that really stands out would be Klopp's Liverpool. He's teaching them more things and has a lot of time to do so. And especially with all these cups that they're in, like the FA Cup, the Caribbean Cup, Champions League and Premier League, he has to be organised to allow his players to not get fully out of fitness. The next would be tactics. This would be responsibility of the coach, and they would create tactics and game plans to ensure they try and get the win. The best example of this would be Pep at his time at Barcelona. The trio of Messi, Iniesta and Xavi in the centre midfield would always use at least one of them anywhere on the pitch, making triangles to ensure they keep the ball. This was through Pep's time with Jurgen Cruyff that he learnt this and implemented it into his game now. He's now known as one of the best managers in the world because of it, Barcelona's success. Players' health is the next one, is a massive responsibility for the coach. They have to make sure that the players' fitness is up to good standard and that they're not getting injured, or they can measure the fitness to see if they're well to play or not. The coaches they'll get a release statement on how their players are going up to the game. So for an example, say like you've got one player that's 60% fit, you've got another player 100% fit, but the 60% fit player is the better one. The coach has then got to make the choice, is he going to play him and risk getting him injured, or is he going to play the much younger 100% fit player? But it's all in coaches. The next one would be skills of the coach. The top 4 I chose is communication, evaluating, time management and problem solving. Communication as a coach is a good skill to have. This allows for conversation with players and a clear understanding of what you are wanting there to do. An example of this would be Mourinho through his time as an innovator. At his time at Barcelona as innovator, the manager there originally didn't speak any English, or Spanish or whatever they decided to choose the language. So Mourinho was hired to then communicate with the coach and the players, so he got his coach's words across to the players. And while there he learnt a whole lot of skills, and now he's become one of the best managers in the world. Problem solving is a skill of a coach. This is to be able to think of your feet during a match. The best example of this would be Zinedine Zidane with his time with Real Madrid. After watching a couple games of Zidane playing or managing, I recognised in one of the El Clasico games that finished 0-0, Barcelona were completely on top in the midfield. So Zidane decided to change the formation to fit his players better. They tucked in morewards and try and gave them the outside wings because they were more devastating down the middle, hence why Messi was playing down the middle. The next would be time management. Time management is a similar skill to being organised, but if the coach is organised, then the time management would be a skill. Time management could be used in a game through the use of sub at the end of the game. This would waste time and allow the clock to be run down and obviously the game to let out and finish. The evaluating skill would be used by coaches to go through an old game. This would be like an analyst and pick out mistakes that the players have been proceeded to try and stop, and then they weren't done again. This would be called elevating one's performance. There'll be an analyst that in the coaching staff that would go through all that, and obviously you can then talk to the coach and the coach can sort it out and help the players perform better. The next is technique used by the coaches. Fitness analysts, observation analysts, performance analysts and goal setting. Goal setting would be a good technique to use for the coaches that are there for the long run. If you don't see a goal at the club to reach, then no one will know what they're battling for. This is a prime example of what Ancelotti's just done for Everton. He has said to all his players that we are reaching Europe, you will get European football by the end of 2 seasons. He's set a goal for his players, and now his players have something to fight for. It gives a little battle in the club to try and pitch for it. Fitness analysts would allow the coach to get an understanding on how healthy their players are. This would link with the analyst and evaluating the player's performance. After a game, the fitness analyst would see how much that game tired him out, and if it tired him out greatly, then obviously he won't play in the next game, he needs to rest. But some players can just fight through it, but would risk an injury. This is how most players got injured back in the day. Observation analyst would be a coach that watches in detail how an individual would train, or even how they act in different scenarios. This is This would determine how players' attitudes towards their club and how they're feeling, and how they are in training. So if they have the wrong attitude in training, then maybe they have the wrong attitude in a game at the weekend or wherever the game is. Performance analysts would be a coach who tracks the performance of players, allowing in-depth explain into why they performed the action and of all what's happening to their body duration. This would come into evaluating again because it's a performance analyst. So evaluating and performance are very similar. If the performance analyst, so if they perform bad, then they're most likely going to get a badder rating, and then they might not play the next game. It depends how the manager sees them. If he knows he can put confidence in his player, then he'll play, but if he's going to follow the stats, he won't be playing the next game. Alright, now we're going on to my case study. My case study, I decided to go for Carlo Ancelotti, who just recently became the Everton football coach. This is what I have to say. Ancelotti is regarded as one of the best coaches in the world. He is also one of the 7 people that have won a European or Champions League as both player and coach. This would make him a role model to the Everton players before even meeting all of them. There's our role model, that's because he's already won it before. Before even meeting the players, then he would already have the respect of the players and some fans. Ancelotti is also known for being an educator and having a very good understanding of the game, hence why he has a better understanding of the game, because he's played and now he's managed at the top level, winning all these trophies. So for Everton to come and grab him is actually excellent. Which means time playing in the past teams he's managed. His coaching style follows a more reciprocal coaching style. This means that his intent to his players changing it in a certain extent. So some player, maybe the senior players at the club, if they're feeling like it's not working, they can say to the coach and they can maybe change it to fit them more. It follows, This is shown when he was at Real Madrid and he wanted to use the 4-4-2 formation, which he's mostly known for. But at the time, Ronaldo played left wing and wasn't happy to drop into left mid or play striker. So they came to the agreement that they would continue playing the 4-3-3. And Ronaldo is one of the best players in the world right now because of it. Let's say that if a different manager didn't allow Ronaldo to play where he was most comfortable at such a young age, then he might not be part of the history books. As well as being one of the best manager, there's been times where his code of conduct has completely off. One of the most recent ones were his recent Everton games where he was shown a red card at the end of the game for foul language. That's because while it's shot, last minute of the game, a goal was ruled because De Gea couldn't see, and then Ancelotti went off at the ref after the game thinking it's outrageous and all that. But he completely understood afterwards. He got himself back, he paid the fine, and he was back on track. So my next case study is Ivan Lindau, which is Andy Murray's old coach from 2013. But he was also known as one of the best tennis players in the world after winning 9 single titles and was #1 in the world for 270 weeks. Lindau was appointed to Andy Murray's coach and guided him towards 2 Grand Slams in 2012. US Open and the 2013 Wimbledon Championship. He said that Lindau has improved Murray's maturity and consistency during his game with him. During Lindau's time with Murray, the skills he brought was an analyst to Murray to see what he was doing wrong. Using the knowledge from when he was playing at the highest stage, he passed it on to Murray, allowing him to win and what he has won. This then meant that Murray was able to have a close friend with Ivo due to them pretty much having one-on-one coach. This would get to know one another and would make it easier to understand weaknesses and strengths. So in a way, Ivan was a good friend. It was a friend to Andy Murray, and he followed a reciprocal probably training session as well, because obviously he needed to show Murray how to be more mature and his consistent during games. But Murray's allowed to jump in and help because he's already at the highest stage in the world. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.